It is noon on Wall Street. The Dow raging above 26,000. Bitcoin at 9,300. It's Money Monday, and Liquid Lunch is open for business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome to this Money Monday edition of Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco, and a manic Monday it will be. We'll be talking money. We'll be talking karma. I am going to be talking about both Bitcoin and the Dow Jones Industrial Average closing above some breakpoints. Just a couple weeks back, I mentioned that if on a Friday the Dow closed above 26,000, it could be on its way to 27,000. Some stuff has been going on. The Iran tensions have put a little pressure on the market. We're going to talk about that in just a bit. But I also said Bitcoin could follow the same path, and through 8,000, we could be on a rocket path to 9,000 pretty quickly. I'm sure Frank will point this out later, but I was right. And as we sit here today, Monday morning, the Bitcoin is on fire at 9,300. So keep an eye on that. And above 10,000, there's a whole new set of things we got to talk about, because breaking into the double digits could put it on another rocket path. So the Dow, the Bitcoin, the karma in money, and the karma in the room is always great when I'm joined by Frank Morano, my co-executive producer and managing editor of Liquid Lunch. Good morning.
Good morning, John. How was your Father's Day?
Good afternoon. Father's Day.
Only on the East Coast.
On the East, just past 12 noon Eastern. We are coming to you live, as always, from the Question Tequila Studios, and I gave you the full market rundown, but yes, a wonderful Father's Day indeed. And when you have kids like mine, Victoria, Ava, and John, it's easy to be a father, because they're amazing kids. And and there they are. That was patriotic.
Nice.
That was nice, guys. Aw, okay. And you know what? Kids are great. Tracy and I were very lucky, and we parented them together, and they make Father's Day amazing. And it was also a celebration for my mom. If you want to talk a little family day, because her birthday is coming up, we were all together, so we had a little cake for Mom. She's the first viewer on every day, right before Mike and Jay's grandmother. And we had an awesome, awesome day. Baseball and kids and my nieces, nephews, and it's what you live for. And now that I'm done with that, everyone lives for your commentary.
Well, absolutely, John. Quite a bit of news happening around the world and in your neighborhood. Let's hear about it from the man who always tells it like it is, me. Advocate and comedian Jon Stewart is continuing his push for Congress to extend the 9/11 Victims' Compensation Fund. On Fox News Sunday, Stewart said congressional politics is making passage amazingly difficult.
Mitch McConnell has been the white whale of this since 2010. In 2010, and this brings up something, because I think it's the cynicism that's displayed by Washington that also causes this situation to be so emotional.
Stewart gave emotional testimony last week before the House Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Civil Liberties, where he continued to push to fully compensate first responders and survivors suffering from illnesses linked to the September 11th terrorist attacks. The president's national security team is considering sending more military forces to the Middle East. The discussions are expected to take place this week after last week's attack on 2 tankers in the Gulf of Oman. The U.S. blames Iran for the attacks. Iran is denying responsibility, and the Japanese tanker that was attacked is even having its owner question the United States version of events. And finally, protests are continuing in Hong Kong over a controversial bill that would allow suspects to be extradited to mainland China for trial. Protesters are calling for Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam to resign and for the bill to be completely withdrawn. Protest organizer Jimmy Sham told reporters today that demonstrators would not step down until the bill was dropped entirely. Organizers claim over 1 million people attended this week's protests. A march is scheduled for today through downtown Hong Kong to the central government offices.
I want to stay on this 9/11 stuff. This is the one time in life that I think I agree with Jon Stewart, and I want to keep agreeing with him, and I want our voice to be one of many that keeps the pressure on these filthy politicians who would even consider stopping paying people who are dying from being first responders.
Well, it's very interesting, and I'm eager to get your take on all the top of the hour items that we mentioned there. But we actually have a little bit of breaking news, and this is why you watch Liquid Lunch, because we bring you all the latest breaking news. But just before the show, some breaking news out of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, in an overwhelming 7-2 ruling, has decided that they are not going to do anything about the double jeopardy law, meaning you can have a state or a city and the federal government charge you for the same crime. Now, the reason this is significant, aside from the fact that you hate to be in a situation where you get acquitted of murdering someone in state court and then they just charge you for the same crime in federal court, which I've actually seen happen. There's people in prison for that very circumstance that I personally know. But aside from that, this has an immediate effect on Paul Manafort, because here in New York, local prosecutors are bringing about cases to charge him for the very same crimes that he's already been charged with federally. So, in spite of that pesky little sentence in the Constitution that says double jeopardy is a thing, the Supreme Court apparently doesn't think it is. And this is not a conservative justice thing, not a liberal justice thing. There were liberal and conservatives on both sides of this one in this 7-2 decision. So, sorry, Paul Manafort.
But it's not only Paul Manafort, and I heard New York State Senator Andrew Lanza make a pretty impassioned plea about this in the state Senate to fight against it. This is everyone talks about how brilliant the founding fathers were and how they thought about all these things. This is something that they put in the Constitution to protect the people from an overbearing government, to protect the people from tyranny, that you can't charge someone with something, not win, and then go figure out another way to go get them.
2 bites at the apple.
No, but
Why
Frank,
not?
people don't understand. We talk about this stuff, and they don't understand. It's not just Paul Manafort. To me, Paul Manafort gets whatever he deserves, and he will get whatever he deserves. But I don't think, under the Constitution, he should get charged for the same crime. He's paying a penalty in the federal system. Why should the states be allowed to come after him?
And people should also understand the implications for what this means for someone like Donald Trump. Now, the president, the Department of Justice believes, it doesn't say this anywhere in the law or in the Constitution, but the Department of Justice adheres to the principle that a sitting president can't be indicted by the federal government. Now, what's to stop Manhattan DA Cy Vance or New York State Attorney General Letitia James from charging the president for the very same crimes that the Department of Justice feels they're not able to charge him with?
If
Nothing.
there's no evidence,
Especially not
if
after
there's
this.
DNA.
No, doesn't matter
No,
if
I'm
there's
just
new
saying,
evidence.
but if there is new evidence, if there's a countervailing circumstance that wasn't considered that creates a new crime, then I understand that. But just saying we're going to keep going after someone, every one of us can get on the wrong side of a politician and be haunted for life by every authority they can get some political power at.
Well,
and I'm haunting politicians by the day, so I'm particularly touched by this.
Hats off to the U.S. Supreme Court. They have managed to do, again, what they did with the Citizens United decision, what they did with the Kelo versus Connecticut decision on eminent domain, and they've managed to make absolutely no sense legally, morally, or politically. But you heard John Tobacco allude to Jon Stewart's battle with some D.C. politicians over the 9/11 Victims Compensation Board. Jon Stewart was on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace yesterday, unloading both barrels on Senator Mitch McConnell. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
They asked Mitch McConnell about the testimony after it was done, and he said, gosh. I think he used the word gosh. Gosh. We haven't looked at that in a while, but we will look at it, and I'm sure we'll deal with it as compassionately as we have in the past. But I want to make it clear that this has never been dealt with compassionately by Senator McConnell. He has always held out until the very last minute, and only then, under intense lobbying and public shaming, has he even deigned to move on it.
Again, I'm with Jon Stewart. If Mitch McConnell wants to dawdle on this thing or dawdle on this thing, I think all pressure, all barrels should be on him, Frankie, and we got to keep ours on him. I want to, and I sent a clip of us talking very nicely about Congressman Max Rose last week. I sent it to one of his supporters who passed it on to him, but we want Max Rose down here because I don't always agree with Max Rose, but he's been at the forefront of fighting for this stuff, and I want to know what's really going on so we can keep you abreast of what's happening.
Well, the biggest story in the world right now, with military implications, economic implications because of oil prices, national security implications, and yes, political implications, is what we're seeing with Iran. Now, we told you on Friday morning about this tanker, these two tankers that were attacked in the Gulf of Oman on Thursday. Well, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was on numerous Sunday shows yesterday indicating he knows exactly who is responsible for it. This is what the Secretary of State had to say.
These were attacks by the Islamic Republic of Iran on commercial shipping on the freedom of navigation with a clear intent to deny transit through the strait. This was on the Gulf of Oman side of the Strait of Hormuz. There's no doubt the intelligence community has lots of data, lots of evidence. The world will come to see much of it, but the American people should rest assured we have high confidence with respect to who conducted these attacks, as well as a half a dozen other attacks throughout the world over the past 40 days.
The good old intelligence community. Just trust them. Now, forget about the fact that the owner of the Japanese tanker said our version of events, meaning not ours, theirs, the U.S. intelligence agency's official narrative is completely inaccurate. Forget about that. They want you to believe that this 90-second black and white grainy video, which looks like something that they showed the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot in, that is enough to say Iran's responsible.
Bigfoot?
Yeah, remember that Bigfoot video? I think we've even shown a photo of it from time to time.
Actually, Trump just started talking about the UFOs the other day.
I know, he's watching. The president's
We're breaking
watching.
news. We're talking about the Navy coming out with these UFO things, and FBI coming out with proof that they went after, that they tested some hairs for Bigfoot. I mean, this is becoming a really conspiratorial time.
Well, that it is. That
Do
it
we
is.
have any of those Bigfoot photos? I love those.
I think we probably do. Rose can probably throw one up there, and then
there it is.
There
The
you go.
FBI just
There
came
you
out
go.
with this.
That's a simulation. We know it's not the real Bigfoot because Bigfoot is seen far more regularly, at least in these parts, than Bill de Blasio
That's
is.
right. And you know what else? If you noticed, is like really bad handwriting on there, like because you know John Bachman, the guy who gives the shot at this being on this show, he told me that if it's a parody, you have to make it very clearly a parody. So that was a parody. Bill de Blasio is not Bigfoot. He is.